everyone? Welcome back to TBM Sports. Let's talk Saturday college football. Huge slate, a lot of games with high implications if we're going to talk about postseason and conference standings. But I want to run the board and give you guys my best bets. Okay, we will have 4 of them today. And also I do have 2 games, maybe 3, that I want to highlight and talk to you guys about some things that I'm thinking about betting. Can't get there, but I want to share with you guys some fishy spots as well as some numbers that I think that have some fun kind of attributes to them. So let's get into it. If you are new to the channel, though, perfect time to do so. Hit that like button. Please subscribe down below, and let's get it going. Let's talk some college football, and yeah, we'll dive into it. If you aren't using Outlier, I do have a 7-day free trial. That link will be down below in the description. Sign up with Outlier today, and that way you guys will make the best bet possible. Okay, don't overpay for juice. You can see right here, we're finding the best numbers right now in real time. And this video was done earlier in the week. It's not done on Saturday morning. So if these numbers have moved, try to comment and I will try to answer you guys about what we're seeing with that line movement. Okay, but I wanted to give you guys the numbers in real time and as early as I can. That way you guys can make the best bets possible as well. Okay, as we get into the noon slate, we'll talk about the first game that I want to talk about, and that's LSU and Vanderbilt. Okay, so this is very interesting because we do see Vanderbilt opening as a favorite. Okay, and they are a 2.5-point favorite. LSU, kind of in some form or fashion, has been dodging bullets. They did take down South Carolina 20-10, but that LSU defense is legit. Okay, so we will have an official play in this. One thing about what we see with Vanderbilt, okay, everybody's aware of the Diego Pavila and that the steam, the hype, everything that's around that quarterback for the Nashville-based product. But when we talk about Vanderbilt in terms of a product, that's pretty much what we get, okay? It's going to be that Johnny Manziel, that Baker Mayfield, all or nothing, leaves it all on the field. And going against the LSU defense, that can go a couple different ways, okay? But looking at that last game against Alabama, now Vanderbilt's going to be banged up, okay? That's a physical Bama defense. And also going on the road, now coming home, a little bit of a different kind of environment. And I think that the one thing that played in this handicap mainly was not just the strength of LSU's defense, but also kind of looking at that score with Alabama, okay? Yeah, sure, Vanderbilt was able to mop up on Utah State, Georgia State scoring 70. South Carolina was only 31-7, so you could kind of formulate that into what we're talking about today, and 44 against Virginia Tech, okay? So you're not going to get that against LSU. If this game was being played in Death Valley, obviously it would be a completely different conversation, as LSU would be favorites. But as we look at the Commodores here, okay, this is where I want to talk about the Alabama game a little bit, right? It was 30-14, Alabama covered late, but without those kind of late scores, okay, we're talking about a game being played into the 30s, all right? And that's kind of how I see this one playing out. 49 is just way too many points. So my best bet for LSU and Vanderbilt, we're going to go under 49 at -110. That will be my first official best bet. Washington and Michigan. Okay, Michigan fresh off of a steamroll job that USC was able to perform. As we saw, you know, finally, all things considered, we did get to see Lincoln Riley get a home game, so we got to see some of that complaining subside. But the Wolverines traveling back off a loss, 4-2 now on the season. Their playoff lives are in jeopardy, okay? And pretty much as we all knew before the season, that would hinge upon the late season showdown against Ohio State. But the Wolverines, 6.5-point favorites here in this spot. I got to tell you, okay, Washington plays a very similar brand of football that USC does do. I think that USC, one thing that stands out to me is they're a little bit more physical, and they have those dudes that they haven't had, I think, on defense in quite some time. But for me, guys, this one comes down to one thing and one thing only, okay? If I'm playing this game, I'm taking Washington here on the money line, 2-1. I think that as you look into, you know, more for Michigan, I think that the writing's on the wall that he would not be returning next season. I think that that's still in play. But, you know, all things considered, I think that when we look at Washington here, 5-2 on the season, they're a very live dog here on the road playing in the Big House. Not an official play, but I do kind of have that game jumping off at the page of me right now, okay? Next game, Georgia Tech and Duke. I kind of have a small play on Georgia Tech, not an official play, but I do lean in that direction as the Yellow Jackets are looking to go 7-0. But the next official bet that we will be making, it's going to be Oklahoma and South Carolina, okay? Now, in that last game that Oklahoma did play, this is where we saw, you know, the quarterback went down a little bit with got a little banged up towards the end of that game. And albeit Texas had some few explosive plays against that Oklahoma defense. That kind of gives me a little bit cause for pause here with this handicap. But still, I think that Texas, for all things considered, they're just trying to figure it out. Okay, Texas is still in my opinion, a top 5 roster, if not top 3 in college football. The record doesn't show it, but that's how I view it. And as we look at the power rankings, I think that at the end of the season, if they get through that gauntlet that they have, they will come out on the other side. But after the Red River rivalry, there's probably some betting trends to follow up this game that they do play year in and year out. But for me, in this spot, we're taking the under 43.5. That will be one of my best bets as well. And I will recap all of these best bets at the end of this video, so keep that in mind. And if you're following along, appreciate you guys that do watch till the end, okay? But South Carolina, as we all know, very, very, very athletic quarterback, dual threat, very dynamic, okay? And that's not going to be in question, but I do think that we will see a very strong defensive performance by Oklahoma. Looking to get right, they're still 5-1. They win this game, they're right back into the thick of things in terms of their playoff berth. But for the Sooners here, okay, I do want to tell you, Lenore Sellers is going to be a hell of a job to stop defensively, okay? But for all things considered, I just look at Oklahoma and what they were able to do in big spots. The game against Auburn at home, 24-17, okay? Michigan, 24-13. How much of it is actually translating from his move from Washington State to Oklahoma? Now he's a little banged up. I just don't know that we get points, and if we do get points from South Carolina, great, but he's still going against a very vaulted Oklahoma defense that I think will be able to keep this total low. So my next official best bet will be under 43.5, Oklahoma and South Carolina. All right. Next, we're going to go down the board a little bit, get into the 3:30 action, and we'll kind of highlight the Indiana Hoosiers because I do think they're legit. Okay, Cignetti, smoke him if you got him, but he's ready to play. I think that the Hoosiers will definitely roll the Spartans here. Maybe a little bit of a letdown spot after that kind of emotional high that they had in Autzen. But, the Hoosiers, they are very, very physical, okay? And also, they got some dudes on offense, and I think they'll be able to handle the Spartans with ease. 26.5, though, is a big, big number. I do think Indiana will cover this, but in the hopes and, I guess you would say, the potential for a letdown, I'm not going to get involved. I think it's a big number, and I know they come home and host the Spartans off of an emotional high. So it would not shock me whatsoever if they kind of came out a little flat and pretty much have that mentality that they already won something, which they didn't. Okay, but I think Cignetti will have his guys ready to play. So if I was going to play this, it would be Indiana minus 26.5. Just a little bit too big of a bet size for me in terms of laying that heavy spread. So maybe even Indiana team total, I think I would get involved with more so, okay? Next bet, Ole Miss and Georgia. This will be not a play for me. We'll tell you guys one thing. If you watch that Georgia-Auburn game, okay, absolutely atrocious officiating. And I think one thing is clear. Maybe not a Goodell fix that we see in the NFL, but the SEC does not want Georgia to have 2 losses. I can tell you that right here, right now, okay? So I know Ole Miss is 6-0, but Georgia at home, everything will be rolling in their direction. From a betting standpoint, I like Ole Miss to kind of play better after that I guess you would call it one of the more evident look-ahead spots they did have against Washington State as they had to come back and winning that game 24-21. But I do like the Bulldogs here. I think that one thing is for sure, they're going to play great defense, and as long as Gunnar Stockton plays well offensively, doesn't turn over the football, I think they will be able to find that recipe to keep Mississippi's offense at bay. Just too much of a number, right outside of that touchdown, that key number. If this was a -7, which you can find in the market, I would lean Georgia. Just too big of a number for me, although I do like the Bulldogs at -7 quite a bit. Just not going to make an official play, okay? Excuse me. Next game we're going to talk about, the Buckeyes traveling up to Madison, okay? And they're going to be playing the Wisconsin Badgers, who, for all things considered, I don't know the rankings offensively, but what the hell is going on in Madison, okay? And the Buckeyes, they are probably the #1 defense in the country, and very impressive after the departure of Jim Knowles, which, for as much money that they did pay him to go to Penn State, he's not doing the same job he did at Ohio State. So how much of it is coaching versus personnel? But as we look at Ohio State and Wisconsin, okay, One thing I'll tell you is the Buckeyes. Let's talk about their points allowed: 16, 3, 6, 9, and 0. Okay, so you can find the mean in those numbers, and that does jump off at the page at me. And also conversely, Wisconsin playing on the road playing at home against Iowa, they were blanked. Okay, 10 points at the Big House, 10 points home against Maryland, 14 points on the road against Bama early. And I'm not even talking about Middle Tennessee State, but you get the picture. Okay, I don't think the Badgers are going to be scoring. So if you did want to get involved, you got to do the team total. Okay, and it basically comes down to two things: does Wisconsin score 9, or do they fail to score at all? Okay, so that's where you see the juice heavily favoring the under a touchdown at -150, under 7.5 points. It's kind of a bet on principle. You get plus money to have 9 points, so either 3 field goals, touchdown, and a field goal at +130. Or not to like the Badgers to kind of score, but I just don't think they're going to do it. I think that Ohio State might pitch another shutout. So if you are shooting for some plus money, you can get 2-1 almost, under 3.5 points for the Badgers, +190. Illinois was able to score 16. If they kicked the extra point, it would have been 17, but they went for 2. So something to take in consideration. But if you want to shoot for plus money, take the Badgers under 3.5 at +190 team total. And if you do think that maybe we get a little letdown spot finally for that Ohio State defense, I would take Wisconsin over their team total if you wanted to find that at plus money at a 7.5 price. Okay. Next game, Utah State, North Texas, no play. I do like the mean green here to win in this spot. Texas A&M and Arkansas. This is my fishy game of the weekend, okay? Texas A&M, 7.5 point favorites on the road, playing the coachless Razorbacks here. And you can see the money being coming in on Arkansas, all right? This one stands off to me as being one of the fishy spots of the weekend. I'm going to pass. I'm going to stay away from it. Texas A&M, number 4 team here in the country. Fresh off of a convincing win, I think you would talk about. And the one thing I'll tell you guys, beating Florida 34-17, this one just seems like, hey guys, what are we missing here? Texas A&M should win this game by double digits, 14 plus points, but I just don't trust this number. It's fishy. So this is a clear-cut pass for me. If you wanted to involve, I know you're not supposed to tease college football, but Texas A&M basically -1.5 is a very strong proposition there at that price, okay? Going down the board a little bit more, Clemson, I think they're coming on strong, -9.5. I don't mind that bet whatsoever. I'm not going to get involved, but I do think that is a very probable outcome. I think they will be able to take down SMU. I think they got it all figured out, but still not the playoff caliber, but I think they are coming on and figuring out what they're doing on both sides of the ball. So I do like Clemson at home, -9.5 a little bit. Northern Illinois and OU, you could look into the over 41. That's something that I do kind of have a little bit of a lean on. But the next best bet, we'll talk UNLV and Boise. Okay, UNLV 6-0 on the season. They have a bye to prepare for Boise State. They're not the same Boise State as we saw last season with Ashton Jeanty. Okay, now they do get a little bit of a reprieve from a scheduling standpoint, right? They had to go play in South Bend against Notre Dame. That one resulted in a lot of turnovers, and I do like the Rebels here. So I'm going to be taking UNLV, all right, +11.5, -106. That is the best number available. I do think that this will continue to drop, so keep that in mind. But I'm taking UNLV -106 at +11.5 as my next official best bet. Okay, Texas Tech and Arizona State, a little fishy game as well. The Red Raiders, they are one of my top 5 teams in the country. They were there preseason. I trusted the NIL. I went with my gut, and I have a nice little futures ticket with the Texas Tech quarterback for Heisman around 70-1, and also to win the national championship that I would be firmly looking to hedge off of if they did make the playoffs. But this is a fishy number. Texas Tech should roll here, taking down the Sun Devils, and I do like Texas Tech -9.5. Not a play for me, though, but another very favorable teaser leg if you think Texas Tech does win this game, okay? Next, let's go down the board a little bit. I think Oregon bounces back strong against Rutgers. If you want to lay the -17, I don't mind that whatsoever, but it won't make my card as they will have to travel. West goes east. And quite frankly, I think that what I've been telling people as they've been asking me, because I was very high on Oregon, I think what it comes down to is Penn State alike. I think that Oregon-Penn State game emotionally, physically drained these kids, okay? And I think that's what we saw a little bit trickle into that Indiana game, all right? They just look soft. And That's not the Oregon Ducks team that we know. I think that they are still a top 5 team in the country. And for my money, guys, I think that Dan Lanning will have his guys ready to go, and we will see a very physical showing going against Schiano and company and the Scarlet Knights. So 17, if you want to lay with Oregon, I don't mind that, but not a play for me as well. Penn State and Iowa, okay? We'll talk about this one because it does matter, and I think that as we look into this handicap, we all know what happened. Drew Allar out for the season, James Franklin canned, and the Nittany Lions will be going on the road to play in a very tough environment, okay? Iowa is a very tough road spot to play in, and Iowa, they did blank Wisconsin 34-0 last time out. I think that this one does set up a quarterback for Penn State that nobody really, quite frankly, knows what he's going to be about, making his first start for Ethan Grunkmeyer, okay? And I do think that the Hawkeyes, they're going to play some good ball. Very hard not to take Iowa -2.5. Funny to see that we are seeing some action come in on Penn State. But for me, guys, this was a game that I did bet in terms of the under. So I'm taking the under Penn State 39.5. Right now you can find a 40. So under the 40 is the best number available. That is what I took between Penn State and Iowa. So I'm on the under. We'll see what happens. I think that Iowa, going against that Penn State defense that they're going to have to rely on, I think it'll show up. I think they'll play very prideful, okay? And all things considered, if Iowa does play good defensively, I think they're going to keep that quarterback at bay, and just don't think we get much scoring here in this game. So I'm on the under 40, Iowa and Penn State. All right, next game that we're going to get into, and this will be the last official play. We'll talk about Tennessee, Alabama real quickly. No play for me. I think the Crimson Tide are legit. Took them a little bit in a small wager to make the playoffs after that loss to Florida State. Just some value, some plus money value on that. But I think that the Alabama Crimson Tide, they're in a tough scheduling spot. Tennessee did not play well last week. I think the Tide roll here, but it's not going to make my card. But the last game that did make my card, this is one game that surprised me, but in a positive direction, okay? USC and Notre Dame, all right? USC, tough scheduling spot. Having to play Michigan, having to play on the road then against Notre Dame. I have Notre Dame a top 5 team in the country despite their 2 losses, okay? That's just my numbers. I trust my power rankings. When Notre Dame finishes the year 10-2, I just feel like what we'll be at with CJ Carr, he'll be in a great position, getting all of these, games to basically add experience to his belt. Give me CJ Carr in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think they just absolutely destroy USC in a tough scheduling spot, tough road spot. Lincoln Riley on the road just does not play well. So I like Notre Dame, trusting my numbers. -9.5 is the best number we can find right now. That's what I'm going to lay. So Notre Dame -9.5. And if you want to lay some juice, you can take them -9 as USC is taking some action. But I like the Fighting Irish here, -9.5 as one of my official plays, okay? And then that'll basically wrap it up. Those are my best bets. We could talk Missouri and Auburn. I don't have a play in that game. Kind of a lean towards Auburn +1.5. They were a 1.5 point favorite, but that number has flipped over to 0. And Auburn comes in this game 3-3, desperately needing a win to remain kind of bowl eligible, okay? But I do think that the Tigers here, +1.5, I think is the value if you wanted to lay it. Not going to make my card, not an official play, okay? That'll wrap it up. Those are my best bets. Appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. If you haven't liked or hit that subscribe button, please do so now. Share this video, share the channel, all that good stuff. I love and appreciate the support. Thank you all. Here's the recap of the best bets. We're going Penn State, Iowa under 40. We're going to take LSU, Vanderbilt under 49. Notre Dame -9.5. UNLV +11.5, and then OU in South Carolina, and we're going to go under 43.5 at -110 as well, okay? Thank you all for watching. Enjoy it. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. Cheers.